Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. What a special treat we have for you tonight on our show. We've reached back into the records of history and brought three very special guests here. The first one we'll bring out has a very impressive resume indeed. Ruler of England turned England into one of the most formidable military powers in the world, and is one of the only 5 monarchs in all of history to rule England for over 55 years. Please welcome Edward III.
Glad to be here, my good man. Oh, and it's King Edward III.
Pardon my mistake.
You are forgiven, commoner.
So, would you tell us first, how did you rise to power?
Well, my mother conspired with the exiled Roger Mortimer to overthrow my father. I was engaged to the 12-year-old Philippa of Hainault to ensure support from France. An invasion was launched and my father's men abandoned him. I was crowned King Edward III on February 1st, 1327.
But
I was simply a puppet. Mortimer became de facto ruler of England, but his popularity fell after his shameful retreat at Stanhope Field, and again after signing the Treaty of Edinburgh, Northampton, a treaty which granted those brutish Scotsmen their own country and lord. I knew this weak man was coming to a breaking point, and in June of 1330 it came with the birth of my son. Mortimer was vulnerable, so I, a close companion named William Montague, and several other trusted men stole into Nottingham Castle where the coward was hiding, and on the 19th of October in the year 1330, Roger Mortimer was executed, and my reign truly began.
quite the story. Now it's time to introduce our next guest, a man who personally ended the Kamakura shogunate and went to become the first shogun of Ashikaga shogunate, which began the Muromachi period in Japan. Please welcome Ashikaga Takuji.
Hello everyone.
So tell us a little about yourself.
Well, in 1331, I was a pretty prominent landlord from the Kanto region. My clan Ashikaga had branched out since the Genpei War in the 1100s, marrying into several prominent families. Even my own father took a Hojo wife. My mother, however, was a Uesugi clan. By 1331, Ashikaga bloodlines could be found in clans all the way to the Kine region.
So tell me about the Ginko War. What happened there in 1333?
Well, in the spring of 1333, the exiled emperor Go-Daigo escaped from Oki Island and returned to the mainland at Chiaya Fort, where imperialists held off Bakufu forces.
And if I'm not mistaken, this is where you pulled a Benedict Arnold, so to speak?
Who?
Never mind. Continue, please.
As you could guess, the current regime was none too joyous over Go-Daigo's return. Takatoki, leader of the Bakufu, ordered 2 great armies to be sent against the emperor. One was under the command of Nagoshi Takayo, the other was led by myself. Nagoshi was ambushed by loyalists on the march, which left me, Ashikage Takuichi, the most powerful Bakufu general.
Now, what made you change your allegiance?
I had been growing discontent with the regime for some time. The Hojo family dared to treat my clan as lesser. We who held the Ashikage blood would stand for no such thing, but the final decision was when I received a secret letter from Go-Daigo. It stated his wish that I would return to Hojo and join him. Who am I to refuse my emperor?
What happened after Go-Daigo was reinstated?
Naturally, a power scramble began. The military was Go-Daigo's power, and if the samurai who served him were not rewarded, then he'd be in a very tight spot. The court also wanted a share of the spoils of war. The samurai held the greatest respect for the emperor, but not so the court. I myself instituted the Buigosho, basically commissioner's office in Kyoto. It gave me the power to hand out titles and land grants to my family and allies. I practically ran the capital.
Were you content?
Of course not. Life is a constant journey. Those who will keep walking reach the top of the mountain.
So how did your rebellion begin?
From the headquarters, I rewarded my allies and supporters with land grants far greater than what the imperial court handed out. But my real statement was when I gave rule over the Yoshisada lands in Kozuko to my Uesugi family. Nita Yoshisada was a powerful samurai warrior in the emperor's service. He had refused to be lured to my side, but since his family would be troublesome in the future, Anyways, I had no regrets about making him my enemy.
So how did Godago react to your insult to his supporter?
Well, Nina pushed for a decisive battle with me to end it all. But by 1335, I was backed by most of the powerful samurai families. Gozaigo and Nita prepared for one last defense along the coast, where my boats would be landing. They were crushed between me and my brother. Nita's man left the field in shame. Gozaigo ran to Mount Heil and hid.
Tell us about his attempt to reclaim his throne.
After several months of pestering resistance, Gozaigo asked for a ceasefire, which I granted. But his supporters took it upon themselves to face me in battle, and several of his most powerful samurai supporters fell to my armies. In 1338, I was finally powerful enough to proclaim shogun.
Famed Zen master and intellectual Maso Shika and an old friend of yours said Takagi had three qualities. First, he kept his cool in battle and was not afraid of death. Second, he was merciful and tolerant. Third, he was very generous with those below him. After speaking with you, I can tell why you held high esteem.
Thank you, strange-dressed man.
We have one more guest to bring out. Famed political thinker, author, and lawyer, Niccolò Machiavelli.
Why, thank you. It's a pleasure to speak with you, such fine rulers.
So you've heard the story. Both these rulers came to power by us rising their respective thrones. What advice or commentary do you have for them?
Yes.
Well, in my book, The Prince, chapter 8 specifically, I wrote out my thoughts on coming to power through wicked means.
Hey.
Now, I don't mean yourselves are wicked. I was just summing up anyone who rose to power outside of legal or hereditary ways. But I was saying, in seizing a state, the usurper ought to examine closely into all those injuries which is necessary for him to inflict and to do them all at one stroke, so as not to have to repeat them daily. And thus by not unsetting men, he will be able to reassure them and win them to himself by benefits. I think this is where you had a problem, Sir Ashikaga.
I can see your point. Wiping out my enemies all at once would have been easier than waiting them out.
Quite. And as for you, King Edward, your quick actions gave you the throne with little consequences, but where did you lead your country?
To war, of course. Am I not a man?
Yes, you certainly are, but why? Why reopen the war with Scotland, first of all? It wasn't even a successful venture.
The Scots are savages in kilts. When several of my nobles had lost land in Scotland and asked me for assistance, I saw nothing wrong with besieging the town of Berwick. I was generous at the time as well. I could have taken the throne of Scotland for my own, but no. I was lenient and placed Edward Balliol on the throne.
And then?
Being the merciful king that I am, I settled for a truce with Scotland in 1338.
I'm sure that's why you did it.
The year you were bested by savages is the same year I had my greatest victory.
You dare insult me? No man may speak to the king like that.
Gentlemen, your majesties, please settle down. We're all friends here.
So Edward, Ashikaga, what do you think is the most important thing to remember as a ruler?
To remember those around you, underlings must be kept happy. Besides, powerful friends are an emperor's great ally. What say you, King Edward?
A heavy hand. Control over your kingdom is the #1 priority. A king need not be feared as much as highly respected. No man is equal to the king.
Do you think you're above Ashikaga, Takagi?
My power comes by divine right. This pagan ruler surely can't say the same.
Ha! King by divine right in my country, I am divine.
Cultures definitely change across the globe. Now to bring out time to a close, we have a letter from a soldier in Edward III's army.
The impudence writing to the king.
Anyways, he says, "My lord, why did you not consider that your soldiers would rather not rush to war? After all, prosperity abounds in peace."
Wise words. How do you answer, your majesty?
Answer. It is the divine right of the king to command his subjects, and it is subjects' duty to obey.
Only the most foolish of men would follow a ruler like that.
They will follow me or follow no one.
Well, did either one of you ever consider that your real power is in your people? Why not let them have a voice?
You have such strange ideas.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you all three of you for coming, and please join us another time.